All right, hey there, welcome to your first edition of Sharp Does Math. Today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting like fractions. When we say like fractions, we're talking about fractions that have the same number in the denominator. So you can see here in this example problem, we have an 8 in the denominator of both fractions, which makes it very simple to add those together. First thing when adding fractions, check, make sure the denominator is the same. If it is, okay, you're going to keep that same denominator and you're just going to add the numbers in the numerator up here at the top. This N right here stands for numerator. Those are those numbers up top. D, denominator. Those are the numbers on the bottom. So 3 plus 2 is 5/8, and it's that simple. The last step would be to check to see if you can simplify 5/8. In this instance, we can't, okay? If you want to check to see how to simplify, you have to find all the factors, the numbers you multiply together to get these numbers. So for 5, the only numbers you can multiply to get 5 are 1 times 5. Those are its factors. For 8, we could do 1 times 8. We could also do 2 times 4. Those are the only factors for 8. And when you look at those, we have an 8, a 4, a 2, and a 5. None of those numbers are the same. The only number 5 and 8 have in common is 1. And when they only have 1 in common, that means it can't be simplified anymore. It's in simplest form. So 5/8 would be the answer to this problem. So let me show you down here a little bit lower on a model how this would look. So if I made 2 little bars like this, and I cut both of them into eighths, I'll try and do this as perfect as possible here. I cut both of these models into eighths. Try and make them look the same. This first one here is my 3/8. I would shade in 1, 2, 3. And down below I have my 2/8. I shade in 1, 2. So when I add those together, put a little box down here, make sure you can see it. Again, if I cut this into eighths, and I add those together, here's 1, 2, 3. That's for my 3/8 up here. And then if I added 2 more eighths, there's 1, 2. That's my 2/8 from there. Now my total right here, we have 5/8. All right, so that's adding and subtracting like fractions, okay? There's an example of how to add them. Just add the numerators across the top, okay? I'm gonna give you a couple more examples real quick, okay? So my next problem will be 5/16 plus 7/16. Again, we have like fractions here. The denominator is the same. So I'm going to keep my denominator at 16. 5 plus 7 is 12. And I have 12/16. Now in this case, if we look at the factors of 12 and 16, they both have a factor of 4, because 4 times 4 gives you 16. 3 times 4 gives you 12. So to simplify this, we divide the numerator by 4, and we divide the denominator by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And 3/4 is my answer in simplest form. So 12/16, that's the correct answer. It's the same as 3/4, but 3/4 is the answer in simplest form, which is what you always want to go for here. Okay, so 3/4 is going to be my answer. All right, so that's adding like fractions. So let me give you an example now of subtracting like fractions. Okay, and you're going to see all the steps are exactly the same. It's just you're subtracting instead of adding. So if I have 9/10 and I subtract 6/10, okay? You can see the only difference is right here. I have a subtraction symbol instead of an addition symbol. That's it. So my 10 is going to stay as the denominator, okay? We already have the same. 9 minus 6 is 3, and that's it. 3/10 is already in simplest form, so that's all you got to do. All right? So adding and subtracting like fractions, you keep the denominator the same. So we had a 10 here, so our denominator is going to stay 10. You either add or subtract your numerators, okay? And then you check to see if it's in simplest form, okay? And then that's all you got to do. So that was adding and subtracting like fractions with Mr. Sharp, aka Sharp Does Math. I hope you learned something new today. All right, peace.